The Great Hall of the Galaxy Council was bigger than most cities. Tejo walked across the smooth floor, his footsteps making no sound. Above him, hundreds of different alien species sat in their special seats. Some had tentacles, others had wings. Many had eyes that glowed in colors humans could not see. Today was different from other days. The air felt heavy with anger and fear. Tejo had been to many council meetings before, but he had never felt anything like this. He took his place at the human table. Admiral So Young sat next to him. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp like a knife. On her other side sat Wu Jin, the chief human diplomat. He looked calm, but Tejo could see his hands were tight on his chair. The council leader stood up. She was from the Veltari race. Her purple skin shone under the lights, and her 8 tentacles moved like angry snakes. When she spoke, her voice was loud enough to fill the huge room. "We are here today to talk about the human problem," she said. "For too long, humanity has ignored our rules. They build colonies where they want. They make weapons we do not approve. They refuse to share their technology with us." Murmurs went around the room. Tejo heard words in 100 different languages. Most of them sounded angry. The Veltari leader continued, "The council has been patient. We have tried to guide humanity like we guide all young races. But humans do not listen. They take what they want and give nothing back." A tall alien from the Krillian Empire stood up. His red eyes glowed as he spoke. "Humans are dangerous. They spread across the galaxy like a disease. They must be stopped." More aliens agreed. Their voices mixed together in a noise that hurt Tejo's ears. The Veltari leader raised one tentacle for silence. "The council has made a decision. We give humanity one last chance. You will stop making new colonies without our permission. You will share all your technology with the council. You will follow our rules like every other race." She paused and looked directly at Admiral So Young. "If you refuse, the entire galaxy will cut all ties with humanity. No trade, no communication. You will be alone in the dark." The room went quiet. Every eye, every sensor, every alien sense was focused on the human table. In the history of the Galaxy Council, no race had ever been given such an ultimatum. Usually, by this point, the threatened species would beg for mercy. They would promise to follow the rules. They would give the council what it wanted. Tejo felt sweat on his forehead. This was the moment that would decide humanity's future in the galaxy. Admiral So Young stood up slowly. She was much smaller than most of the aliens in the room, but somehow she seemed to fill the space around her. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of creatures from 1,000 different worlds. Then she spoke one word. "No." The word hit the room like a bomb. Aliens jumped from their seats. Tentacles waved in the air. Wings flapped in panic. The noise was incredible. The Veltari leader's tentacles turned dark purple. "You refuse to negotiate?" "We refuse your demands," Do Young said. Her voice was calm, but it carried clearly through the chaos. "Humanity will continue to expand as we choose. We will develop our technology as we see fit. We will not bow to threats." A crystalline delegate made a sound like breaking glass. "This is madness. No species can survive alone." "You are making a terrible mistake," shouted the hegemony representative. "The council controls the trade routes. We control the jump gates. Without us, you are nothing." So Young smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We appreciate your concern, but humanity has always been good at solving problems on our own." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and one more thing. Any species that wants to continue working with humanity is welcome to do so. We will not let the council choose our friends for us." Wu Jin and Tejo stood up and followed her. As they walked toward the exit, the noise behind them grew louder. Aliens were shouting in their own languages. Some were making sounds humans could not understand, but clearly meant anger or fear. At the door, Tejo looked back. The Great Hall was in complete chaos. Council members were arguing with each other. Some were already calling their homeworlds on emergency channels. "Admiral," Tejo whispered, "what have we done?" So Young kept walking. "What we had to do," she said. "The galaxy is about to learn that humans do not negotiate when we are in the right." As they left the building, emergency alarms started going off. Ships were launching from the council station. Messages were being sent across the galaxy at faster than light speed. In less than an hour, every civilized world would know that humanity had done the impossible. They had said no to the Galaxy Council and walked away. Tejo thought about his family back on Earth. He wondered if he would ever see them again. The Council had the power to cut humanity off from the rest of the galaxy. They could make life very hard for his species. But as he watched Admiral So Young walk calmly to their ship, he felt something strange. For the first time in his life, he was proud to be human. They might be alone now, but they were free. The galaxy would soon learn what that meant. 3 days after the humans walked out of the council meeting, panic spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Director Vexistar of Council Intelligence had not slept since the incident. His blue skin had turned pale and his 4 eyes were red from staring at reports. He called an emergency meeting of his top agents. The room was dark except for the glow of holographic displays showing human colony locations. Red dots marked human settlements across the galaxy. There were far more than anyone had expected. How did we miss this? Vextar asked his team. How did one species expand so much without us knowing? Agent He-Jin sat at the back of the room. She was human, but she had worked for Council Intelligence for 10 years. Her job was to watch her own species and report any dangerous activities. Now she felt sick to her stomach as she looked at the data. Sir, said Agent Corval, a Thraxian with insect-like features. Our latest scans show humans have colonies on over 200 worlds. Most of them are not on any official records. Vextar's tentacles curled in anger. 200? Our files show they have permission for only 50 colonies. That's not the worst part, Corval continued. We found shipyards, big ones. They are building ships we have never seen before. The room went quiet. Building unauthorized warships was against the most basic council laws. It was an act of war. He-Jin wanted to speak up to defend her people, but she stayed silent. She had sworn an oath to serve the council, not humanity. Vexitar turned to another agent. What about their technology? What are they really capable of? Senior analyst Kyung-Soo was also human. He had been working on strategic assessments for 15 years. His job was to study military capabilities of different species. He had never thought he would be studying his own people as potential enemies. I need to run more tests, Kyung-Soo said quietly. But the early results are concerning. Speak plainly, Vextar demanded. Kyung-Soo stood up and activated a holographic display. It showed human ship designs that looked nothing like council vessels. They were sleek and deadly, with weapons mounted in places that seemed impossible. Humans have developed faster-than-light travel that does not use our jump gates, he said. They can go anywhere in the galaxy without our permission or knowledge. Gasps went around the room. The jump gate network was how the council controlled space travel. If humans could bypass it, they could not be stopped or monitored. There's more, Kyung-Soo continued. Their population has grown to 50 billion people across all their colonies. Most species have only a few billion total. Vextar felt cold fear creep up his spine. How is that possible? We monitor population growth very carefully. Humans reproduce faster than we calculated, Kyung-Soo explained. And they have medical technology that keeps people alive longer. Much longer. Agent He-Jin finally spoke up. Sir, may I say something? All eyes turned to her. She was one of them, but she was also human. Everyone in the room suddenly remembered that fact. Go ahead, Vextar said carefully. Humans think differently than other species, she said. When the council gives us rules, we follow them. But we also think about what might happen if those rules are not enough. What do you mean? Asked Corval. He-Jin chose her words carefully. Humans always have backup plans. And backup plans for the backup plans. We prepare for problems that might never happen. Kyung-Soo nodded. She's right. I've been studying human military development. They don't just have one type of weapon system. They have dozens. Each colony develops its own defenses. Each ship class has different capabilities. Why would they do that? Vextar asked. It's wasteful. The council way is more efficient. Because humans don't trust anyone to protect them except themselves, He-Jin said. Not even other humans sometimes. Kyung-Soo brought up more data. Look at this. Humans have 17 different faster-than-light drive designs, 43 different weapon types. Their defensive technology is so advanced that even their own military branches don't share all their secrets with each other. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Other species specialized in one or two areas and shared everything with the council. Humans had become experts in everything and shared nothing. How strong are they really? Vextar asked the question everyone was thinking. Kyung-Soo hesitated. Based on what I can see, They might be stronger than all Council forces combined. An agent from the hegemony stood up quickly. That's impossible. We have been the dominant military power for 1,000 years. Your ships are better than any single human design, Kyung-soo admitted. But humans don't fight with single ships. They fight with fleets, huge fleets, and they have manufacturing capabilities we never knew existed. Agent Hyojin felt tears in her eyes. She had spent years spying on her own people, thinking she was protecting the galaxy from human aggression. Now she realized the truth was much more complicated. There's something else, she said quietly. Something I've noticed in human behavior that might explain all this. What? Vexstar demanded. Humans are afraid, she said. Not of the Council. Not of other species. They're afraid of something else. Something they won't talk about. Afraid of what? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's big enough to make them prepare for war on a scale the galaxy has never seen. Vexstar looked around the room at his agents. Some were angry. Some were scared. All of them were confused. Prepare a full report, he ordered. I need to brief the Council emergency session tomorrow, and get me everything you can find about human deep space activities. I want to know what they're really doing out there. As the meeting ended, Kyung-soo walked up to Hyojin. Do you really think humans are preparing for war? She looked at the data displays showing human colonies scattered across the galaxy like a defensive network. Yes, she said, but not with us. They're preparing for something much worse. That night, emergency signals went out to every Council member world. The message was simple but terrifying. Humanity had become too powerful to control, and no one knew what they planned to do with that power. The Council's decision came down like a hammer. Economic sanctions. Complete trade embargo. Any species that continued to work with humans would face the same punishment. Trade liaison Min-soo stood in the human embassy on Nexus Station and watched the galaxy tear itself apart. Outside his window, alien merchants lined up in secret, whispering requests for continued business with human colonies. This is madness, muttered Ambassador Dong-hyun as he read the official Council declaration. They think they can starve us into submission. Min-soo shook his head. They don't understand how important human trade has become. Look at the lines outside. Through the embassy's main window, they could see dozens of alien species waiting nervously in the corridors. Thalorian food merchants who had made fortunes selling human agricultural products. Xylaxian tech dealers who relied on human electronics. Even proud hegemony nobles who had become addicted to human entertainment. The first crack in the Council's plan came within hours. Captain Jinwoo of the merchant vessel New Seoul received an encrypted message while docked at Veltari Prime. The message was from the Veltari Food Distribution Authority. They needed human grain shipments to continue, or 3 billion Veltari would face starvation. But the embargo, Jinwoo started to say. Unofficial channels, came the reply. The Council doesn't need to know. Similar messages flooded human merchant networks across the galaxy. The Crystalline Confederacy needed human medical supplies. The machine worlds required human-made computer components. The agricultural worlds wanted human farming techniques. In just 1 week, humanity had become essential to galactic civilization. The Council had not realized how deep human integration had gone. Ambassador Dong-hyun called an emergency meeting of human merchants and diplomats. The embassy conference room was packed with worried faces. The Council thinks they can pressure us, he said. But they've made a critical error. They assumed we needed them more than they need us. Captain Jinwoo raised his hand. Sir, what about the jump gates? They control faster than light travel. Dong-hyun smiled. Show them, Captain Lee. Captain Lee activated a holographic display. It showed star charts with new shipping routes marked in blue. These routes bypassed all Council-controlled space. Human deep space exploration teams have been mapping direct routes between friendly systems, Lee explained. We don't need their jump gates anymore. Gasps went around the room. This was bigger news than anyone had expected. How is that possible? Asked Merchant Danby. New drive technology, Lee said simply. Developed in secret over the past 20 years. We can travel faster than Council ships and we don't need their infrastructure. The room erupted in excited chatter. If humans could travel freely without Council permission, the embargo was meaningless. But the real shock came 3 days later. The Thalorian Empire, humanity's oldest alien allies, made a public announcement that stunned the galaxy. They would not honor the Council sanctions. They declared their trade relationship with humanity too important to sacrifice for council politics. Within hours, the dam broke. The peaceful collective announced they would continue buying human medical technology. The independent mining guild said they still needed human engineering expertise. Even some hegemony worlds quietly resumed trade through back channels. Minsu watched from the embassy as alien representatives lined up openly now, no longer hiding their intentions. The secret had become public. The galaxy needed humanity more than humanity needed the council. "This is unprecedented," said news broadcasts across council space. "Never before has an economic embargo failed so completely." Ambassador Dong Hyun called a press conference that was watched by billions across the galaxy. He stood calmly before cameras and recording devices from hundreds of different species. "The council has made its position clear," he said. "They believe they can force humanity to submit through economic pressure. We have a different proposal." He paused to let his words translate into alien languages. "Any species that wishes to maintain profitable relationships with humanity may do so freely. We will establish direct trade routes that bypass council space entirely. We will share our technology with friends, not masters." The implications hit the galaxy like an earthquake. Humanity was offering an alternative to council membership. They were creating their own economic network. "However," Dong Hyun continued, "species that choose to support the council embargo will be excluded from all future human cooperation. This includes medical technology, agricultural techniques, entertainment products, and defensive assistance." The threat was clear but politely stated. Choose the council's embargo and lose access to everything that had made life better across the galaxy. Captain Jin Woo's merchant fleet began operating with military escorts. Human warships appeared openly for the first time, protecting trade convoys as they established new shipping routes. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Sleek, fast, and heavily armed, they moved through space with confidence that worried council military leaders. More importantly, these ships traveled routes that had never been mapped before. Humanity had been exploring the galaxy far beyond council borders, creating their own navigation networks. Trade liaison Minsu received reports from across human space. Alien governments were quietly approaching human colonies, requesting private trade agreements. Some were offering military alliances in exchange for access to human technology. The Council's economic weapon had become humanity's opportunity. On the anniversary of the failed embargo, Ambassador Dong Hyun released trade statistics that shocked everyone. Human commerce had not decreased, it had tripled. The new direct trade routes were more efficient than Council-controlled shipping. Alien species were making more profit working with humans than they ever had under Council regulation. The Council wanted to isolate humanity, Minsu said, as he watched alien ships dock at human stations. Instead, they isolated themselves. The galaxy's economic center was shifting. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was losing control not through war, but through voluntary abandonment by their own members. Captain Jin Woo's final report was simple but devastating. Human trade networks now connect over 400 star systems. Council trade volume has dropped by 60%. At current rates, the Council economy will collapse within 5 years. The embargo had failed completely. Worse, it had shown the galaxy that humanity offered a better alternative to Council control. The age of human dominance had begun not through conquest but through choice. The meeting took place on a neutral space station in the void between star systems. No Council forces, no human fleets. Just a small room where the truth would finally be revealed. Admiral So Young arrived with only one companion, Defense Minister Young Hee, who carried a single data pad that would change everything. The Council's inner circle waited nervously around a simple metal table. Director Vextar spoke first. "Admiral, the galaxy is falling apart. Over half our member species have abandoned Council authority. Your people are creating chaos across civilized space, so..." Young sat down calmly. "Director, you've been operating under a serious misunderstanding about humanity's intentions." "What misunderstanding?" demanded the Veltari Prime Minister. "You refuse our authority. You build weapons in secret. You turn our own members against us. You think we've been preparing to fight you," So Young said quietly. "The truth is much more serious." She nodded to Young Hee, who activated the data pad. A three-dimensional map appeared above the table. It showed the galaxy in incredible detail, but it included regions no council species had ever seen. Beyond the known galactic rim, vast territories were marked with symbols that made no sense to the council representatives. Strange ship designs, unknown technology signatures, civilizations that operated on scales that dwarfed anything in council space. We've been preparing for war, So Young continued, but not with you. The silence in the room was absolute. Council members stared at the map with growing horror. Our deep space exploration teams have made contact with 17 different extragalactic civilizations, Young He explained. Most are peaceful. Some are neutral. 3 are actively hostile to any organized galactic civilization. She highlighted several areas on the map. The Devourers have consumed 4 entire galaxies. They move in massive fleets, stripping every world of resources and life. They're currently 50 years away from reaching our outer rim. Vextar's tentacles turned pale. 50 years? The machine intelligence network known as the Harvesters are 30 years behind them, Young He continued. They convert organic life into computational resources. They've turned 2 galaxies into vast computer networks. The hegemony representative made a choking sound. Why weren't we told about this? We tried, So Young said. 20 years ago, human exploration teams brought evidence to the council. You dismissed it as impossible. You said no civilization could exist beyond the galactic rim. Engineer Seung-ho's voice came through the comm system from humanity's deep space monitoring stations. We've been tracking the approaching fleets for 2 decades. Every human expansion, every colony, every weapons development has been calculated to build defensive depth against extragalactic invasion. The map zoomed in to show human colony positions. What had looked like random expansion now revealed itself as a carefully planned defensive network. Each human world was positioned to provide early warning, strategic resources, or defensive capabilities against threats from specific directions. Your aggressive human colonies are actually advance warning posts, Seung-ho explained. Your unauthorized weapons are specifically designed to counter technologies we've observed in the approaching fleets. Young He highlighted the human deep space shipyards. Every vessel we've built has been tested against extragalactic technologies. We've had to develop redundant systems because we don't know which defensive approaches will be effective. The crystalline delegate spoke in a voice like breaking glass. You mean all this time? All this time, humanity has been trying to prepare the galaxy for the biggest threat in its history, So Young confirmed. We haven't been hiding our capabilities from you. We've been desperately trying to develop the strength to protect you. Vextar leaned forward. But why the secrecy? Why not share this information? Because council politics would have made effective preparation impossible, Young He said bluntly. Every weapons program would need approval from 800 different species. Every colony location would be debated for decades. Every technological development would be shared immediately, including with species that might be compromised. So Young activated another display. It showed communication intercepts from the approaching Devourer fleets. The signals were in languages no council species had ever heard, but human computers had partially decoded them. They know about the council, she said. They've studied your political structure, your military capabilities, your decision-making processes. They expect you to respond exactly the way you always have, slowly, carefully, with minimal force applied in predictable patterns. They've never encountered anything like human military doctrine, Young He added. They don't understand a civilization that prepares for war during peacetime. They don't expect redundant defensive systems or independent technological development. The room fell quiet as the council representatives absorbed the implications. Everything they had seen as threatening about humanity was actually designed to save them. What do you need from us? Vextar asked finally. Complete military integration, So Young replied. Every species contributes their unique capabilities to a unified defense force. The old system of limited cooperation and careful politics has to end. Some species will refuse the Veltari Prime Minister said. Then they'll be consumed by the Devourers. Young He said simply. This isn't a political negotiation. It's a species survival assessment. Dr. Su Jin's voice joined the conversation from humanity's xenobiology research stations. We've studied the remains of civilizations destroyed by these extragalactic forces. They all had one thing in common. They fought like the council fights. Organized but limited, Careful but slow. The approaching fleets have learned to counter that kind of resistance, she continued. They've never encountered total war doctrine because no galactic civilization has ever needed to develop it. Commander Boram's tactical analysis appeared on the display. Humans fight differently. We fight to win completely, using whatever means necessary, accepting any sacrifice required. The enemy fleets have no experience with that level of commitment. The final piece of data made everyone in the room go cold. Projected casualty estimates for a defensive war using Council military doctrine. 90% galactic population loss. Complete civilization collapse within 10 years. Projected casualties using integrated human-alien defense networks. 40% population loss. But civilization survival and eventual victory. The choice is simple, So Young said as she stood to leave. Adapt to total war doctrine or face total extinction. As the council representatives sat in stunned silence, the Admiral's final words echoed in the small room. Humanity has never lost a war because we prepare for every war as if losing means the end of everything we love. Now it really does. The emergency session that followed would be remembered as the day galactic civilization either saved itself or signed its death. Warrant President Moon Esio of the Human Colonial Union stood before the full council assembly. The great hall that had once intimidated human delegates now seemed small compared to the threat bearing down on them all. Behind her, holographic displays showed the approaching extragalactic fleets in terrifying detail. Ships the size of moons. Fleets that stretched across entire star systems. Technologies that turned stars into weapons and planets into raw materials. The age of the Galactic Council as a governing body is over, Moon Esio announced. Her words caused immediate uproar until the first close-up images of devourer vessels appeared on the screens. The hall fell silent. The enemy ships looked like metallic viruses designed to consume and replicate. Scout reports showed them feeding on entire worlds, growing larger with each system they devoured. The age of the Galactic Defense Alliance begins now, Moon Esio continued. General Jae-hyun stepped forward to outline humanity's proposal. His uniform was simple, but the data he presented was staggering. Complete technological sharing. Total military integration. Every species contributing their unique capabilities to a unified defense force. The old system of controlled development and limited warfare ends today, he said. From now on, we follow human military doctrine. Overwhelming force. Redundant systems. Total commitment to victory. The debate that followed was fierce and desperate. The Altair hegemony's war leader stood up, his red skin flushed with anger. We have been the galaxy's premier military force for 1,000 years. We will not subordinate our fleets to human command. Then you will die with honor while accomplishing nothing, General Jae-hyun replied calmly. Honor means nothing to the Devourers. They will process your bodies into fuel for their ships. The Crystalline Confederacy's delegate made sounds like shattering glass. How can we trust humans with this much power? They have been deceiving us for decades. We've been protecting you for decades, corrected Admiral So Young. Every human deception was designed to prepare for this moment. Dr. Sujin activated a detailed analysis of the approaching threats. Her research had revealed why the extragalactic civilizations were so successful. They had learned to predict and counter traditional galactic resistance patterns. Every civilization they've destroyed followed the same basic strategy, she explained. Careful coordination between separate military forces, limited engagement to preserve resources, diplomatic attempts to negotiate with implacable enemies. The displays showed the ruins of dead galaxies. Billions of worlds stripped bare, entire civilizations converted into raw materials for the alien fleets. They expect us to fight like you've always fought, Sujin continued. They have specific countermeasures for Council-style military doctrine, but they've never encountered human warfighting principles. Commander Boram's voice filled the hall as tactical simulations played on the screens. Humans fight total war. We commit everything to victory. We accept massive casualties if necessary. We use any weapon that works, regardless of previous agreements or traditions. Most importantly, he continued, we never give the enemy time to adapt. Human doctrine emphasizes overwhelming initial force to end conflicts quickly. The machine collective's probability calculations appeared on the main display. 3.7% chance of successful resistance using traditional council methods. 67% chance of victory using integrated human-alien defense networks. The vote was scheduled for the following day, but the real decision happened in private meetings throughout the night. The Thalorian Empire was the first to officially join the alliance. Their announcement came at dawn, broadcasted across the galaxy. "Humanity has been our friend in peace," their leader declared. "They will be our ally in war." The peaceful collective joined next, despite their name. "Sometimes peace can only be preserved through victory," their representative said quietly. The Independent Mining Guild brought their industrial capabilities. The agricultural worlds offered their food production networks. Even some hegemony colonies broke with their leadership to join the alliance. But 301 species chose neutrality, hoping to avoid the coming conflict entirely. And 123 species made the desperate decision to flee beyond the galactic rim, abandoning their home worlds rather than face the approaching fleets. As the alliance vote concluded, something happened that shocked even human leadership. Hidden shipyards across human space began revealing themselves. Military installations that had been disguised as mining operations came online. Manufacturing centers that had been listed as agricultural facilities started producing warships. The human fleet that emerged from concealment was 3 times larger than the Council's most pessimistic estimates. Thousands of ships using technologies no alien species had ever seen. Vessels designed specifically to fight enemies who turned stars into weapons. Ambassador Te-Ho, now serving as the Alliance's diplomatic coordinator, stood before the communication array that would send humanity's message to the approaching devourers. "This galaxy is under the protection of the Terran Defense Alliance," he announced. "Turn back now, or learn why humanity has never lost a war." The message traveled at faster than light speed toward the approaching fleets. It would take months to reach them, but the response would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Alliance transformation began immediately. Alien technologies that had been carefully guarded for millennia were shared freely. Human manufacturing techniques were distributed to every member world. Military training programs started on hundreds of planets. Engineer Sung-Ho coordinated the largest construction project in galactic history. Defensive installations around every inhabited system. Not just military bases, but entire worlds converted into fortress platforms. Captain Jinwoo's merchant fleets were redesigned as rapid deployment forces, capable of moving troops and supplies across the galaxy in days instead of months. Agent Hai Jin, finally able to serve her species openly, led intelligence operations to identify and prepare for enemy infiltration attempts. The galaxy was transforming from a loose confederation of cautious species into a unified war machine. 3 months later, the first response came from the extragalactic fleets. It was brief and in a language that human computers were still learning to decode. The translation was chilling. "Unknown defensive doctrine detected. Revising invasion timeline. Requesting additional resources." For the first time in their history of conquest, the Devourers had encountered resistance they couldn't immediately understand. They were calling for reinforcements before even entering the galaxy. In the depths of space, ancient enemies who had swept aside 100 galaxies were learning to recalculate their assumptions about local resistance. The galaxy's response to their threat was unlike anything in their experience. Humanity had given the galaxy something it had never possessed: the will to fight total war for total victory. The coming conflict would determine whether that was enough.